The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey, we're Hot Pink Satan, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews, and today it's an honor and a privilege to have Mollie Black and Jeremy Kramer of Hot Pink Satan. Hot Pink Satan has released their new music video for Breathe off their current album, Spells, and it's out now, and we're going to talk a little about this, and so, how's it going?
Good, we're great.
Hello out there. What's up? Going well. How are you?
Awesome. Glad to have you on the show. Very interested in your music, and I really like what you guys are doing right now.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very awesome to hear.
So let's jump right into this. How's it been working with tag publicity so far?
Oh, well, it's
been great.
It's been great. It's been short so far, but it's like our first project with them, but they've been awesome. Definitely getting it out there. Love it.
Yeah, huge shout out. William's amazing. Tracy's amazing. Yeah, we have nothing but great things to say. Absolutely.
So Hot Pink Satan has released their second single and video entitled Breathe. Was it hard to choose between the current set of songs on this album, which would be the first single and video, let alone the second one? And what did you want that first song to say for Hot Pink Satan, for those who have not heard of your music as you and they listen to it?
Ooh. I was like, wow.
I will say that because we were going to let out a full record ourselves, we did kind of have a plan of unveiling everything in steps so that people kind of got into it. And also we had been playing live a bunch, so we kind of had a feeling of what was capturing the audience, you know, like the wow songs, I would say. And our live show is a little different than the record. There's added elements and stuff, but still we were kind of getting a little bit of data back from the people seeing us play, you would say, you know, where we kind of understood that Hot Tights was like this, like Wet Tights was this, you know, and then, and also when we were recording, we kind of had you know, some songs when you put them down and you listen to them, they're just like, they kind of blow up the speakers on their own. So we kind of picked a few of those to kind of introduce the audience to them.
And also songs that don't say fuck every other word.
Yeah, that's true.
There was that.
I think it is the truth that if you do look at our thing, there's like 3 songs with that, the little explicit thing. So we kind of want to be able to, we're riding the fine line of internetability in the current era. So we also had to take that into account.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
All of it together.
I think you should be allowed to use fuck like 2 times in a song, and that's it.
Right?
I mean, everyone's getting, with the internet, I feel that cursing and all these things have become so much more general that you're even seeing it, you know, in mainstream media. You know, we all had to listen about the shithole people of the world for the fall. So I don't think that the cursing is as bad as the sexuality these days.
So Breathe was directed by yourself, Jeremy, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you also
directing is a strong word. But you know, with our art, we kind of have a similar aesthetic, similar vision.
Yeah.
So we get together and we just do shit. You know, it's like instead of talking about it, we're like, well, it's got to get done.
Yeah, like you know, well, I guess that is always the ideal with a creative partnership, but it's a very rare thing to find. And I do believe that Jeremy and I, from the beginning, just have had this like mind meld together. So, I mean, of course, you know, we each have like different perspectives, and, you know, maybe we add in our ideas, we have different splashes of color and want to go in different directions, but creating with each other is such it's a pleasure. And at this point, especially, like, we know each other so well. So there's just a language that we can speak and we know each other's wheelhouse. So I really feel like everything for that video, I trust him completely. I can
Same.
feel that he trusts me. And so it makes everything very, like, it wasn't a struggle to try to find the shots or the concept, it was like it was a creative flow. And I think that is why it works so well. It's authentic, not like coming from a forced place.
Yeah, definitely weren't like storyboards or any of the traditional, like, we're going to Los Angeles and making a video with a huge crew. It's very much, in the evolution of our videos, when we made the first couple, we weren't in the same city, and she would just send me a video, and I'd be like, great work, awesome. So this one kind of just ended up the same way with us together, but it was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna start filming, and then I think the next day I had the rough cut done. Just I went overnight, just like sat there on the computer raging, and and then she was like, "That's great," and I was like, "Great."
Yeah, I mean, and all those things in the video are literally everything that we have lying around in our homes. Like, like it was just like that. Like it's us.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are our worlds.
Yeah, you knocked it out of the ballpark for me. I'll just go ahead and say it. So.
That's
very nice.
Thank you very much. That's very cool.
I like folks who are real, and then they're putting stuff out there that they truly believe in, and they can stand by it. And if you don't like it, then get the hell out of here and let everybody else enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this day and age, it gets very confused and complicated, and there's always this rat race for social media likes, and you do have to have a certain amount of exposure, of course, in order to like get shows and be able to carry on. But I do think in the purest form, it is also about creating art, and art is supposed to have like an emotional response. So like, I don't believe that if you're putting out something that is evoking emotions, people hopefully will love it or hate it. Like, I just hope that people don't leave being like, wait, what was that video? Hot pink, what? Like, so, and I feel, I do believe that if we can continue to come from that authentic place and create that type of atmosphere, hopefully it does catch on. It's always that fight between, I guess, the business side and the art side, but hopefully the art side wins.
You hit on something very, very, very tight right there. And this is God's honest truth. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that has taken away the actual promoter now. You are the promoter. I mean, it's all about the likes and all that shit. I mean, to me, that's nothing to me. I mean, if you like my show, my page, it's fine. All good and dandy. I just want to reach one person. That's all fine with me. But it's like, Facebook now, Twitter, Instagram, that's taken over the promoter. They're out, they're gone. It's pretty much you and you alone, just about. Not unless you have a street team helping you out.
Yeah. And if you do, you're collecting that street team. Digital music has kind of like flipped the whole industry on its head. And it's very much coming from where you're coming from, very entrepreneurial. Nobody's going to help you out. You got to kind of just put your stuff out there, and the only way it's going to have legs is if they're your legs,
Yeah.
And so we're very lucky in the fact that we have a combined mentality of like what we like, and we always say the word aesthetic because we kind of have very similar tastes and how it's supposed to sound and what we like, and the fact that we want to add all these influences together. But it's definitely when then it comes to the selling it online, it's like a very different thing, and you kind of have to like switch hats and go. And that, but I don't feel that it's that far from even like when Elvis and the Captain were doing it in the 50s. They were selling out of their trunk before that guy was a movie star. So I don't think it's changed that much, but it has changed. We do need a captain. Looking for a captain, I think. Or the Colonel. I'm sorry, his name was the Colonel, wasn't it? But it's a tough thing. A lot of people, if you're validated by those Facebook likes and those Instagram likes, and that is what you're looking for, that's a whole different thing than what we're going for, where we're validated by the art and then trying to find a way to get it out there.
Right.
Poor Elvis and the captain. The colonel got kicked out.
I'm gonna look totally dumb because I don't remember his name. But you guys, look it up. You know the story.
Trust me, dude. I make fuck ups on here. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Oh man. So I want to get back to the album part with you, Jeremy, because you produced this album too. Do you like having the control of producing when you have the time to do it? Because it gives you more freedom.
It does give you. I think I'm just a little psychotic. I don't know if it. It's not. It gives you some freedom, but then it also there's no structure to it. So you gotta kind of, that's a lot of what the bonus of our relationship is, that we kind of have that same vision. So, if I'm sitting there wasting time, she can be like, what the fuck are you doing? But, or she'll just be like, no.
Make it cool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, got any comments? She's like, no. But, I think it gives you the freedom to be unique for sure in these days, because a lot of, especially the music business, has gone to, can we fit you in this genre? Can we fit you in this lineup? Can we fit you in this market? And when you're making music for a market, it's a little different than when you're making music as like some sort of exorcism of all your demons, know? And so, everything, it has its ups and downs, but I do enjoy I enjoy being hands off on it. And definitely the funniest thing about recording is like, we'll be sitting there and we'll do a lot of the thought sessions and the recording of the actual parts and the putting together the arrangements and all that stuff. And then I'm like, it's science hour. And she'll like knock on the door and she'll be like, you doing science? And I'm like, I'm doing science. And that's, part of me really relishes like getting in there and like fucking with a kick drum until I'm crazy. But, that's just my love of sound, I kind of have like this aural addiction, and I think that draws anybody to playing in, especially the digital, like DAW realm, where the sky's the limit and you're like kind of like a science experiment. It's like a whole different mentality. And I enjoyed that. I don't think it gives you, necessarily so much freedom, but it gives you, it's certainly rewarding. When I listen to Apple Music or something, and there's something you're like, wow, this was done in our studio, that's hot.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
So what about with you having a metal background? How crucial was that for you to add this into this group in music, man?
Well, both of us come from a very long arts background that, so like metal was the first thing I got to tour on, which was amazing. And I loved the decade I was touring and stuff. That was super amazing. And I got to see all the world and hang out with good friends of mine and do a bunch of cool things. But I grew up doing classical music. I went to Berkeley. I was really into trip hop. You couldn't get me away from like Portishead or Tricky or any of that. And, so I've really explored different genres throughout, and really metal found me as an experience to go out and take that to the world more than I've ever had. And I think that was the big lesson there, was, just learning how to tour, learning how to, actually make it to Europe and survive on, late night kebabs and stuff. So that like when we do this, a lot of times when we're looking at each other in the van and we're headed to New York, our belief is that that's just as strong as our show, is the fact that, we'll get together and just be like, yo, it's Tuesday. Let's drive to New York and do a show,
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have those dreams, but then having the guts and saying you're going to, go eat shit to go play shows to start up a thing, that's a whole different thing than just writing and dreaming. And I think the experience of that, especially for both of us, because Clea had toured for a long time worldwide as well. And I think just the experience of being around the real business and not the dreams, it gives you a lot of, you know, when you're then doing your own project and there aren't as many people involved, you kind of have a better layout of the realities of what that means. And you can actually separate the art and the business. I feel, you know, like you go back to that production question, you know, there isn't a band and a label, you know, on top of you telling you what they want. We just kind of have to decide what we want and go out and do it as far as we are right now, you know?
Yeah.
Any song standing out more to you guys than any right now possible on the album? I mean, I know this is like picking your favorite child or collectible, but and I know it must change every time you listen to it, but are there any favorites for you guys, maybe?
Gosh.
There's definitely emotional favorites. Like, I guess maybe like one for me would definitely be I mean, it changes daily. Like, I love Breathe, I love Wet Tights. I really love the 3 Times Hot mixes that we have that like guide the album like a lot. I listen to them while I'm working out. UTI I love because that's my, you know, one of my huge influences for sure. Absolutely. Like, I was making zines and doing the whole thing was the whole like Riot Girl movement, which I'm super stoked is coming back. So there's moments like that for me where it's just kind of like, wow, I remember being 13 and I come from a dance background. So for me, being in a band was always like the fantasy, you know? So it's kind of like there, I guess like each song like has a moment where it's a expression that I have fantasized about in a creative way that has like finally come to fruition. So I guess kind of like each song has just like a very vivid story and moments. And, you know, of course, it's like we're like promoting Breathe and like we're pushing that out. Like, you know, you're listening to it all the time. Then you start listening to a different track. So it definitely, it changes by mood.
And I would say like they also all have like an evolution in our project. Because both of us were, especially me coming from the metal thing, you know, when you're in a band and you do these records, like, you know, you make them in the studio and then you go out and play them live and your mission is to try to play that song as good as it is on the record. And we've kind of taken a different approach where live, a lot of these songs have a whole different character and are way more rock and roll than they are on the record. You know, the record's very electronic on purpose. And then you come see us live and it's very punk rock and bloody and messy. So some songs, you know, like Wet Tights, when we were making that as a record,
right,
it just stood out and it was like my favorite. But then, you know, you fucking work on something for 90 hours in a row and you won't like anything. But then we go out and we play it live and I had this bass line and we kind of have costuming going and lights and all this stuff and the audience starts dancing and you're like, whoa, that fucking tune again, you know? But with all of them, UTI, you know, like we go out there and that thing is raging.
You know,
where on the record it's more like bass. It's like, whoa, what were we saying? It was more like
the Beastie Boys,
like a Beastie Boys kind of just like subwoofer, awesome thing, and so like your feelings about songs change if they have the ability to evolve. And I think we're very lucky that our art has the ability to evolve. You know, we did the Breathe song, you know, was one thing. And then we go and play Breathe live and people are just like shrieking out in the audience as she freaks them out with her amazing performance. And then we make the video and it's a whole nother layer. So you tend to like anything, there's this like ebb and flow of love and hating something, you know?
Yeah. No, that is a great point that, I guess it's like this, like, it's definitely this journey, and we want people to come in to like when you come to see the show, like ideally, like in this, like, again, like this very like artistic sense, it's like we want people to come in and it's like you're entering our world, you know, and then our world becomes literally like our world, like with the crowd. So it should be like this whole visceral experience of like sight, sound, emotion, touching, you know, like fear, anger, pain, sex, like whatever. But as like these having videos from it, like being music videos and, you know, lyric videos are like the new thing now, and just kind of the more content that we have, we can keep building upon the layers. So like the journey keeps fluid and changing. Like we don't, it is pretty cool that we don't have to be stuck in these roles. You know, it's not like we have this role and this look and we become like the Barbie and Ken doll, you know, of like,
like
Satan, you know, it's like
here
even
it is
kind
for
of
the 100th time. Yeah, it's real.
You know, it is it's a live thing, you know, that we want to keep growing and foster.
Sure.
Barbie and Ken with their own pentagram.
Yeah, or we'll hex everybody.
And if we get bored of a song, quite honestly, we'll find one of our wonderful, talented friends to make a remix, and we'll let that out, and then we'll like that version for the next year, you know?
That's true.
I mean, both of us came from a place where if you are into more like pop music or music that seems to last for a longer time, I mean, none of these people are kind of playing, at least in electronic music, with the big people, you'll find that songs evolve over 20 years, and the arrangement you're seeing on stage 20 years from when you write something is going to be totally different. And we kind of started off with that mentality of like that pop star thing, like, no, this is this tour, and you're going to see this in this light. And it kind of gives new life to a song instead of just sitting there having to repeat it over and over and over and over, you know?
Mm-hmm. What do you hope everyone takes away from this new album, or message you hope to hear while listening to it, or just any of Hot Pink Satan's music in general, guys?
Wow, I'm trying to think of something that's not just like, I hope they like it. I mean,
I will say a big thing with our music is you can look at it in many different ways, especially lyrically. While one story is being told right in front of your face, there's also another story behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of music that we like, you know, has this socio-political protest behind it, whether you call that, you know, punk rock or whatever you want to label that as, you know, you can hear a song, like when we're writing songs, a lot of our times are like, well, this could either be dancing on the dance floor, you know, fucking, or about the heroin problem in the United States of America. And like, it's the same song, but if you look at it, you know, it's like, there's lots of ways to approach something. We kind of left it open enough that there is deeper meaning in a lot of songs, even if you haven't found it yet.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and also obviously the use of sexuality, but at the same time, you know, we do have all these layers, but I like to think that a lot of the magic of it is that all of those layers and, you know, different sides to the prism, like all came very authentically. Like both of us like really share, like those are the things that we're into. And, you know, instinctually, you know, I want to be provocative and push boundaries and have different ideas. Like, sure, of course, it's important to me, especially as like a female, like being, you know, like a strong character on stage. But at the same time, I want people to see us as, I mean, I guess who cares about like gender or like roles or who doing what? Like we're both sharing the stage, and the two of us together like create these worlds. And I think that the album, like you can listen to it and it's really fun. I have a lot of people messaging me, and I know Jeremy gets it too. A lot of people like to have sex star songs, which I think is awesome. You know, like it like kind of creates a frenzy. So I mean, if you know, to be able to create art and to be able to have the chance to play live and people show up and they have open ears and open eyes and they're listening to you, I kind of feel like at the end of the day, like, I mean, that is the biggest win. I mean, I don't feel like it's not like you have to like it or we're going to be your number one band. Like, no, like just listen and get into like the experience of it. And, you know, we just want to keep moving forward. I think part of it being what it is that we're doing it because it is a truth and it is an expression. And I think it would get kind of into like a dangerous realm in my mind if like we were manipulating all of these strings, you know, to be like, you know, to be like number one. I feel like that's a completely different machine. Like, and I think because Jeremy and I both have had so much life experiences with other bands and touring, it is really important for like both of us of being like, wow, like we have this project it's honest and it's real. And of course we're going to attack it with the most professional minds possible, because that's also our backgrounds that we come from.
And that brings up a good point. You know, it's like actually having some truth in something is getting more rare, it feels like. So being able to get anything out of a song these days, like that's what we want.
Yeah.
Base level is like, instead of like, oh, that's a good band, be like, oh, that emotionally connected with me, you know? Because that it seems less and less as people keep trying to just jump on what's hot or make a song for a certain market, that there's that truth in it. So, you know, if you can find a truth in our song, that would be the perfect thing. No matter what that truth is, you know, being able to find something more than just be like, oh, that sounds cool. That's, you know, raising the bar or whatever Olympic sport that some music has become, like, this is better than everything. Like, who cares about that? Does it connect with you? Great.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I think one of the best compliments or like moments that I really remember was in Richmond, and there was a guy who had come back to our show for like the second time, and he was so sweet, and he was telling us, he was like, you know, I was telling all my friends to come and they were a little bit intimidated by the name Hot Pink Satan. He's like, but I told them, like, you'd be so surprised, like, it's such a positive environment. and like I was like, oh, I love you so much. But I think that is the thing, though, you know, it's Hot Pink Satan, and it's all the, you know, it's the crossroads. Life is a crossroads, right? Like, we're all like getting through all of our stories, and we go to shows because we all need a release, regardless if you're in the audience or if you're on the stage. So, you know, Jeremy and I, we often kind of use, and it's important for us too, to remember too, why we go out there. It's like, if we can create like a moment of time in this dimension of like freedom for everybody involved, you know, and to like express, like, that's the win. And then hopefully, you know, that catches on, because, you know, of course we want to play out and we want to tour all the time. So then, you know, like, hopefully there's just, I guess some of that is just luck too, of like, you know, igniting the fires and just seeing where we can go, you know.
You need to add the church lady to your song, or to one of your songs.
The old Dana Carvey church lady.
Did you say Satan? Yes.
Satan. That's actually a good idea. I
That's
wonder
actually
how much
a
we'd
great
have
idea.
to pay Dana Carvey for that. It's probably not so much him as Lorne Michaels up there, like,
Let's send him an email.
Yeah. That'd be hilarious. I mean, that'd be awesome.
That would be amazing.
That is a super idea.
And I always like to give the artist a shout out, because I don't think they get enough credit for what they do, because it's hard to actually come up with what you guys are looking for an album cover to bring that out. But how was working with Jordan Haley on this for the album artwork?
It was amazing. That guy is so talented.
He's ridiculous. What an honor, really.
I mean, that was the thing. We were like, hey, can you help us? He had done a couple of the Doth records for us, and I had met him through that, and his artwork is just so, you know, it's got like a bunch of combinations that make it very unique, but super understandable if you're like looking at it. And he was really into the concept that we kind of threw him of, you know, there's a lot of yin and yang in our stuff, where we want it to be lo-fi, hi-fi, and, you know, happy and sad and sexy, and, you know, just all these like
fetish and street and
right, like just all these, and he just kind of captured on that very quickly, and just kept sending us back all of these amazing things. And that's actually, when we were doing a record, we're like, there's no reason to do a full record unless it has like all of the elements around it. So, you know, getting to work with Jordan and Stuart Hawks mastering it, and Jeremy Saffer taking those photos for us, you know, just the collective makes the thing actually something special, instead of just like, you know, here's a record, here's our songs on it. You know, we still wanted that very visceral thing of, oh, there's artwork, there's thought, there's depth, there's, you know, like a kind of vision here that supports the material on the record, not just kind of as like, oh, here's a hot picture of somebody that can garner attention. We wanted, you know, a year down the road for somebody to look at the cover and be like,
that's cool.
That's what that fucking means, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in this Breathe video, and plus other stuff that you've done. But if people can look past that, there's artistic stuff. There's actual great music behind all of this as well.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah. Thank you. That's very nice. We want it to be as unique and weird while still kind of retaining this. I mean, it's got to be a song.
Sure.
So you know, we wanted to make this craziness where, and that kind of leads to the whole thing we've been talking about, where you can take it live and then let it have its own life.
Yeah.
You know, if it, you know, and a lot of what we were talking about recording was, you know, the vocals. You know, it's like, you know, songs and sounds and the instruments and technology and all of this change tone forever. But if you have a basis of good lyrics in a very good form, you know, you can play it on a grand piano and forget the gothiness of everything, and it's still a good song. And I think maybe the focus that we kind of collectively had on that recording made any of that happen for there to be actual real art and songs on there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's very nice of you to say. That's awesome. That, because that was actually one of our goals, is for somebody to be like, oh, that's a good song, not like, oh, that's the hot shit. You know? Yeah.
And I see that a lot. I see just people liking something just because of they got a cool logo or.
Right. And that's important too, though. Sure. I mean, at you know, I'm not a spring chicken, and there have been just as many records that had that cool cover when you were in Tower Records when it existed.
Oh, sure.
You know, that where you'd pick it up and you'd find a whole new world just because something it just showed to you, you know?
Yeah.
I think some of that was involved in working with Jordan and Jeremy Saffer and all that too, you know?
How much growth musically have you seen yourselves go through up to the release of this album, or has it just been more of a personal growth for each of you in this road with Hot Pink Satan?
It's probably both. I mean,
that's exactly what came in my mind, which is why we work together.
Yeah, totally. I was like, no, that's both. I mean, this project, you know, we are two crazy individuals with lots of feelings. So our lives are defined like by what our art project is, you know, like when I found Jeremy, like I was like, that's it. Like, you know, you're stuck with me now. So, you know, that's why we both live in the same city and we're committed. But, you know, there's like at the same time, this is our first project working together. So there's just a lot of dynamics of learning each other. Like when I would say like both, it's like learning each other in that way. Like, and then, okay, like we're learning the process of being in the studio and creating together, but then there's the process of, right, like now we got to build the live show. What does it look like? What are we doing? You know, and there's a lot of like, here we go, like, you know, just like jump off the cliff and like go into that water. And luckily we were able to do that because we do have such a strong foundation. And then I would kind of say, then I would skip to like the individual parts where, you know, I, on my own, have to take responsibility for what I am individually doing on stage, or, you know, who, like, where am I on stage? Like, what worlds are being creating? Like, what is Jeremy creating? Are we like in this together? How do we communicate on stage? Also, like me getting, of course, you know, my sea legs with like Hot Pink Satan. It's a new project, you know. I've definitely have been very lucky to do other things for a very long time where I know exactly what I'm doing or what it's expected, and this was super new. And then I kind of feel like as like we came out together, then both kind of seeing where we need to work individually, and we communicate about what we're working on individually. And then it was really awesome. There was this like, you know, this moment for us where then it like came back together, and it was like this moment of just being like, got it. You know, like when you're just like, got it, like, all right, cool. Like, this is like when we're out touring and like performing together, like, all right, like we got our world, and like we can really build and make that go stronger. So I feel like now we're like on this really fun part of the trajectory where it's like we can, you know, just add all this like art and creativity and, you know, see where it keeps going. But I have a feeling that it, like anything, it will be a continued, and it should be like ping pong match of like growing together, but you have to also practice or rehearse or think or do things also individually to make the whole machine run, you know?
Yeah. And especially in our situation where we weren't like two friends in the same city that were like, you know, you play this and you play this, so let's do this. You know, we definitely started collaborating from, you know, 1,000 miles apart. So everything is growth at that point. You know, from the first weekend we spent in a studio together coming up with ideas, and then we're like, that feels great.
Yeah.
Let's up it a notch, you know. And if you take that all the way to, wow, this Breathe song is great, so we got to make a video and up it a notch. You know, it's like we're lucky to be able to continually grow with it instead of just having this very formulated thing. So that's nice.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of interviews in the past 8 years of BODS Mayhem Hour, and not knocking any of the guests I've had on here. I love each and every single one of you guys and gals, but I can just see the chemistry between you two talking and, you know, collaborating even as we speak with each other's sentences and going back and forth with this band. So you guys are
that's awesome. That's very nice to say.
Thank you.
I mean,
Nice.
that's the special thing about this whole project for us is that, you know, we just kind of have these similar things that we like, and we're not going to let anybody stop us to putting that out, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I think I can speak for both of us. Like, we are two creatures that we will continue to create and be driven by art. And that is what also defines our life path and our choices. So it's kind of like, well, here we go. We're going to be putting stuff out if you like it or not.
Yeah. And we're each other's like worst enablers. Like,
yeah,
one of us will have an idea and the other person like, that's awesome. So,
I'm ordering the limo.
yeah.
Since this is the first thing with Hot Pink Satan for you guys, do you guys do anything differently during the writing and recording process to maybe, you know, keep your minds open and fresh and not get bored with the music or stale? I mean, obviously it don't get boring or stale, but I mean, look what you guys do. But
I mean, everything you do consistently gets a little boring and stale, right?
Sure.
And that's the whole goal, is to find the magic to keep it going. But you know, I think a lot of, wouldn't you say, our thing about when we were in the writing process was to have something that was true and unique.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like we could just, you know, make the very typical industrial record with like 2 guitars on it, and it kind of sounds like the same half heavy metal standard kind of thing. And I think like a big part of our goal is just kind of having our own sound more than like, you know, working on
Trying to fit in.
Right, trying to fit in or trying to be good or trying to do this thing. We just want to make something unique, you know, and true, you know, like how are we talking? If you can connect to it, and it has its own place instead of just kind of fitting into this thing, then we're very into it. You know, like we were in the studio like doing the song UTI, and you know, in like the second verse, there's this first line where she just rips it, and she ripped it so hard she laughed, right? And she was like, "We got to do that again." I'm like, "That is the best line in the entire record, because it has this truth of you in it, and people can engage to that, you know, instead of like this like very sampled, auto-tuned setup thing. You know, there's some honesty that beat through, and you can hear her laughing in the studio room, and you're just like, man, that's real as fuck, you know. And I think those things in the end impress us more than being good as being real, you know.
Yeah.
What can fans expect at a show from Hot Pink Satan who have not got to see you guys live as of yet?
Ooh, wow. They can expect everything. I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, you know, every show is different. I mean, are the songs, you know, are we playing our songs? Like, of course, but as much as maybe there's like each song I kind of see like with like different colors and moods and shapes, and we know that maybe there's certain things that happen, you know, but at the same time there's always, at least like on my side, I always like to leave open actually a lot of space for improv, because I think that keeps like the visceral like raw punk aspect to the show. Mm-hmm. So then it can like, so that every, you know, so we both do that, so like every show, like the interactions and the moments and how wild it gets, or, you know, people on stage, not people on stage, like our interactions with each other, blood everywhere, maybe there's paint, maybe there's not, like all that is actually determined by like the energy in the room and kind of like, you know, I guess like the seance, you know, that we're creating. But I mean, I feel like it's our shows are absolutely like a journey from, you know, kind of like that like first look where you're into somebody, and then like the flirtation and the seduction, and then probably like then you're killing them. And then you're cleaning up the body, and then you tell everybody to fuck off, and then you tell, like your parents to fuck off, and then, and then you go to like the orgy, and and then you go somewhere to have a drink. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like this, like very like, I mean, obviously, like we're playing with the like extremes and these ideas. So I don't know. For me, it's also like the performance, like all that, like when, like all the wildness or stuff. I mean, that's the beauty of like, anarchy. It's a freedom of expression. So the show is as cathartic for us as it is for the audience. Yeah. So,
and I think one of the special things that I get out of it, especially performing with you and stuff, is like a lot of bands I've been in, or like a lot of projects I see, they try to take this one thing that they do and fit it into every club. Like we have to have this, but we'll say, look, we're in the punk rock club. Let's put up the small banner. Let's not use lights, but if we go to a big show, there's lights, blood, camera, action.
Right.
And just kind of having that ability to say, here's the situation. Let's play best to this situation, not, where it's about that situation, gives it so much more of an honesty than like, here's the same thing that we do every night.
Yeah.
And, you're going to see this. So you should expect to see us.
Yeah.
And you should expect to see songs that are on our record. But beyond that, we're still even discovering what we like to do best for stuff.
Yeah.
And that's going to, hopefully that changes over years, because I don't want to be sitting there in 5 years doing the same thing. That would be a little tiring for everybody, I think,
We're living in the digital era of recording albums to get music out quicker, and plus now we got social media to reach out to more fans. Do you like this that we're living in now to get music out quicker, and plus reach out to more folks who have not got to hear from you guys yet?
I know I personally love it. I grew up, we both grew up in the era of where you went to Kinko's and made cassette tapes of your band and tried to get it out to the people in the neighborhood. And there was a lot of like cool socialness to that. But before we did this interview, we're sitting here looking at our, Apple Music and Spotify stats, and they got the map, and you're like, oh, these people in Australia, are listening to us. What,
Yeah.
And I could never imagine that started, the world is so different where if you have an idea and you kind of kick rocks to get it out there, there's so much opportunity. And I think a lot of people don't really embrace that a lot. I think they're afraid of it, but that the new kids aren't, they're just like, put this online, let's get hot in Belgium, so I think there's so much power there if you can harness it,
Yeah.
Like I could never imagine as the younger person starting music myself to be able to like, from myself personally, without a third party that was controlling it, get our art out to wherever it's going, and it's going a lot of places. So that's serious.
I agree. Me especially doing online radio shows, I never dreamed of putting my stuff up on YouTube.
It's totally the same way, right? Like,
absolutely.
20 years ago, you'd be at a college radio station doing this for as far as the antenna could reach. Well, now the antenna reaches everywhere,
Yeah, and I get people giving me shit from Argentina, Brazil, and I love it. I don't care.
And that's the best shit ever, right?
Yeah.
And that shows you how connected the world is now, and that we're all pretty common if we can have common interests like that, which is a beautiful thing. And I think people should be more proud of that instead of like all this salacious shit,
Yeah.
And speaking of that, when you're checking your stats out there, I mean, is there a country that even shocks you that you get support or your music even gets played from? I mean, I know you just mentioned Australia, but has there one that stuck out like, holy shit?
In every country? I mean, kind of as an artist, there's like a duality of, we're we're very driven and we're very confident in some ways, but you know, in a lot of ways, art is a constant battle of like self-hatred and like exorcism of these things that have collected on you. So quite honestly, like if there's anybody but us two listening to it, that's fucking crazy. But you know,
I mean, I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, of course, but I don't know. I saw that, you know, more than one person listened to it in South Africa. So.
I think South Africa would be actually the surprise. I know the only reason I think that's so cool. I mean, I lived in Europe for a long time, so of course when I see those stats, I'm like, well, I hope my friends over there are listening. Yeah. I listen to their music. Yeah. But you know, it's
there. You know, you look in and somebody in everywhere in Japan has checked it out, even if it's only one or two people, and that's just wild.
I mean, it's really amazing that how far you can reach. And then I guess that's when like we were talking about earlier, like the whole idea of like the artist hat and then your business hat that you go on, you know? So it's like, you know, we'll get really excited, and then it is kind of awesome when you think of our journey of being that, even, you know, to be here talking with you and to have this album. Sometimes like the two of us we are so focused and in the zone that like we kind of forget to step out every once in a while and be like, we did something, you know? Yeah. But then at the same time, you know, it's like you get excited and then the next moment you're just like, I got to work on bookings. You know, it is like this like interesting cycle of feeling excitement or of course like a sense of validation, hope, optimism. Yeah. And then, you know, then you like are like, boom, right? Like right back to something of like trying to like book or I don't know, like whatever like the next obstacle is, you know?
And even coming back to like the last question, you know, it's more shocking to me that us two, you know, self-releasing a record can get data that anybody is listening to us anywhere in the world. Like, you know, back in the day, if somebody like direct ordered it from you and you mailed it to them, obviously you know that. But, you know, if you were listening on terrestrial radio, like they're not giving back, you know, 3 people in Rotorua, New Zealand listened to this last week, and having data like that is effed up, really. I mean, it's amazing. You know, that blows my mind more than any specific place is that we have the ability to say, look, we have 55 fans in this city, so we can book this size of club and go play there. That's just incredible to me.
I have like music ADHD, and I'm not making fun of anybody who has it. It's just my vocabulary in music is all over the damn place. I can go listen from you guys.
As it should be.
Yeah. Exactly, Jeremy. I can go listen to you guys, to Haggard, to Gob, to Flogging Mollie, to Metallica. Sure. And it's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
I mean, growing up, that was way more, you know, the concert business has changed a lot, but me growing up, my favorite things would be go see these shows where there'd be 5 different bands that all kind of had their own thing, and they bring them together on this tour, and you're like, why am I watching Korn and the Far Side together? Yeah. But now, many years later, it's like, we're just talking, it's like, here comes Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie again, you know, and that's a great tour, but at the same time, there's not much diversity to it. And, you know, even in our own record and everything, we tried to not really say like, oh, that's not appropriate as an influence. We wanted more and more and more influences, you know? Yeah. So we'll have like, you know, for me especially, I can think of a couple where it's just like you have UTI that's punk as fuck, but then you got Beastie Boys influence in it, and you kind of have this like, or like Spells where it's kind of like a country song done by the Wu-Tang, you know? I mean, like with some weird gothy guy on it. And
we really want to work with Snoop Dogg.
Oh man, cool. somebody call Snoop. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'd even let Martha Stewart throw in a couple lines.
That'd be fine. I don't care.
But you know, really, I think the more and more that, oh God, you're going to hate me. But the more and more capitalism puts us all in these little boxes.
We have an inside joke about capitalism.
You know, the less we can evolve, right? You know, it's like the new politics is to like put yourself in this new little one-faced thing when all of us are creatures with abilities to grow. And all of that comes from influences around the world. You know, absolutely. Half the reason I think we get along is because both of us have traveled a lot of the world, and we can see that, you know, the person in Argentina versus the person in Poland versus the person in Asia, you know, like there's inherent differences, but we're all humans. We all, you know, have the same desires. We have all the same comforts, you know, it's like there are these root things that connect us that are so much stronger than saying like, you know, I'm goth and I only listen to goth
and I mean,
music.
and it sounds like the three of us are like-minded, but it, you know, I believe that inspiration and those moments, those like, like moments that like you carry and take with you, if it's conscious or subconsciously, like into your project, like it's not like, to me, like it's never been about listening or being around or doing, you know, the exact same thing as like everyone else, you know. It's like I was thinking, you know, like the first Hand video, you know, all I was listening to, like, you know, was like Diamanda Galas, you know, like I love her so much, but like that, you know, I'm listening to like gothic opera, like about Armenian genocide, you know, but like, and obviously our music is not that, or, you know, it's like you're saying like Merle Haggard, that just like reminds me of like when I go visit my parents and I'm in Texas, or it's just, you know, I think that's the point of art, is also that other artists or cultures, food, life experiences, I mean, those are just adding colors to our tapestry, that when we are called upon or have like the moments, that amazing moment to be creative, you know, that hopefully that is kind of like what spews out, because otherwise then it's just regurgitation, and then it's just nothing. So
I get a lot of shit because I love Ghost and I like what Ghost is doing. I mean, they're phenomenal in their theatrical act at their shows. If you think about it, they're just like fucking Iron Maiden, man. Look what Iron Maiden does. They have a stage set, you know. I like that.
And then, you know, we talk about that a lot too, that with the Iron Maiden thing, it's, you know, one of the things I always say is like, that was like a group of people from like a town in England that just went the fuck off. And it's not like they're, you know, they've always done that as that circle of people. And that's kind of like how I feel with Clea here, is that, you know, it's like, you know, we're creating that family and not worrying about anything else. We're trying to grow up from inside that family, not really look from outside at what we should be doing. And I think that's a big thing, you know. And I think Ghost has done that as well, you know. They've kind of taken their side, and they're going to be, you know, in 5 years, they'll be the next freaking stadium band, right? I mean, they're on that trajectory for sure.
Yeah, and they're going out on tour with Metallica. How much more stage, or not stage, but stadium do you need right there? I mean, that's it.
That's it, right?
So, yeah, and I get to see Metallica next weekend, so.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll be a huge show.
Oh, that band saved my life, so I owe them everything. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's rad.
Yeah. I mean, that band saved everyone's life in a certain way. You can't deny that they've had an influence at some point. Even if you're like the guy that's like, I hate them past Ride the Lightning, or whatever. You know, they've impacted so much. Even if you don't know it, even if you saw some crazy fucking movie like Hesher or some independent movie, and then it's got like, you know, them on the soundtrack, and like, you're just like, it's just, some of their music has just invaded culture to the point where it's just a staple of it, you know?
Yeah. What made you both want to become a musician? What was that spark for both of you that said, I want to try this?
Well, we both definitely come from different backgrounds. I started out actually as a professional dancer. I was in a ballet company. So I was, growing up, I was really hardcore ballet all the time. And then I got really sick of people telling me what to do. I wanted to do my own thing. And then I got into doing performance art, sideshow, neo-burlesque, always like really wild stuff. And then I started working with bands. And I was always, you know, going to punk shows, and I was throwing big fetish parties in New York at a young age, and like Electro Clash when that came out. So I was always involved like in the scene. So it was inevitable, be it from promoting or performing. So it was inevitable at some point that a band was going to come up to me and be like, do something weird with us. And then somehow doing something weird with us is how I got into actually performing with lots of musicians and bands and doing music. And then I myself, like I was saying, it's like I always had this fantasy. Then I started working with like some punk bands in Berlin. So then like I kind of like got into all of it, but I always wanted it, and I thought it was a fantasy that for some reason it's that I didn't think would happen. I think because I was on like such a strong dance and performance art trajectory, you know, that really seems like that was my thing. So now to kind of like be able to do like Teenage Dream is a pretty big deal. And meeting Jeremy was really what put it all together for me.
Oh, that's nice.
It's true.
Oh.
That was sweet.
Mine, you know, like I was an only child. My parents really liked music. There's an old story like that. My dad got a girlfriend in Europe and he sold like his banjo because he was way into banjo. He was just like, he was kind of in that kind of folky 60s, 70s era when all that became popular again. And he was just way into it. So I was grown up on MTV, quite honestly. I would say they allowed me to watch MTV just as much as cartoons when I was younger. And that, I mean, 80 to 90, if you saw MTV and you were a kid, man, all you wanted in the world was, I mean, that was the dream, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, fast forward, I was in school. I wanted to play the drums really, really fucking bad. And at our school, the band leader had like a nephew or something that was my same age, and there was one drum set. So that person got the drums, and they were like, "Well, you're a big guy. You're playing upright bass in the orchestra," and that started the bass journey. But I think just like the connective power of music and like growing up with it is such a part. Fuck, man. Michael Jackson Thriller.
Yeah, Jesus.
Jesus, you grow up in that fucking era.
Well, actually, that's totally true with MTV because growing up being in the bracket of serious professional dancing, it was all like, you know, I grew up on like classical music, and you know that was also the era where like the biggest dance jobs outside of ballet was like Michael Jackson, Madonna, Janet Jackson, Paula Abdul backup dancers. That was like MTV, and like it's so true. That's just like, it influenced everything.
It was so bigger than life, and all you wanted to do was just be bigger than life like that, you know. And it just like something was real and connected. Where everything else, you know, if I tried to, you know, it was fun playing baseball or it was fun doing math or whatever, but it didn't like drive you to where you'd stay up till 5 a.m. now in older life and be insane about it, you know? And I think it's just those things that connect everybody to what they eventually do. But certainly growing up in a certain era where music was just, you know, the biggest it could get almost in the old label system, just seeing that stuff just made me want to be a part of it so badly.
See, we grew up, all three of us grew up when MTV was good. You know, every 80s band had to have the big power ballad.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God.
Sure.
I remember like, you know, being excited to like go home and see like the premiere of like the November Rain video, you know, and just being like, yes. And I remember like trying to like stay up late because like my parents were extremely strict. So I remember like trying to like stay up late and like sneak and like really hoping that Sir Mix-a-Lot Baby Got Back came on, you know, or like Madonna's Justify My Love. Like everything was just always, it was so fun. It was just so exciting. And I think that's definitely like, I guess that makes sense why we love music videos so much, you know? Like, I'm like, I love them.
Yeah, my cousin, she passed away a year ago, but she because of drugs and shit, but she is the one who really got me into where I'm at today. Because she said, "Come here and check out this, Lil Jon." That's what they call me, Lil Jon. But she's like, she's like, "Check this out." And I was like, "Okay." First fucking video I saw is Guns N' Roses' "Welcome to the Jungle," and I was hooked.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
and that was such a crazy time. That was like when they'd have the like afternoon dial MTV, and it would be like, today the battle is Welcome to the Jungle versus Pour Some Sugar on Me. You know?
Yeah, and then you had Guns N' Roses when they came out with Patience, which I loved Guns N' Roses. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. You know, you had that song coming out on the top 10 countdown, and then all of a sudden, here comes Metallica out of fucking nowhere. And they're like, here's Metallica and their song called One. I was like,
that blew everything up.
That shifted me into a drive that I will never look back on.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's those little things. If you connect with something and you feel real about it, it can drive you for a lifetime, right?
Exactly. Exactly, and I appreciate what you guys are doing and not letting nobody stop you from what you're doing. So congrats.
Oh,
Thank you
super
so
nice.
much
Thank
for that.
you, yeah.
Thank you for seeing that in us. That's very
We
cool.
feel the same way about you
That's true.
interviewing us, man. Passion breeds passion, right?
That's exactly right. And passion before fashion, folks.
We like a little bit of both, but we'll put passion up there first.
That's nice, like my old roots of punk going back to H2O.
Yeah.
Folks, everybody, please get out and pick up Hot Pink Satan's new album, Spells. Plus, check out their video, Breathe, and all the stuff that they got out. Give them a chance. Listen to their music. You know, just take a chance on them, folks. I guarantee you'll like it. How can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy some merchandise, tour dates, things like that? How can they do that, guys?
It's the digital world. We got a website, www.hotpinksatan.com. If you can't do that, just Google us. You will find something you like and some way to hit us up there.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, you name it. Yeah. We are on it, and we are always available. We're easy.
If you want something somewhere else, just email us, and we'll find a way to put it up there.
Yeah.
Before I let you guys go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
We would love
be
to.
honored.
And we also want to say thank you very much for interviewing us about this. It's very sweet for you to take your time and get a little deeper into it with us than the typical 2-line sentences, you know?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This is my addiction. This is my drug. This is my voice. So I just hope I'm helping you guys and every little band that I help out. You know, this is.
Thank you.
You just wrote a song there at the beginning.
I know. Run with it, Jeremy. Run with it, damn it.
And that's how we got here, right?
That's true. You're going on tour now.
Hey, we're Hot Pink Satan, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour on BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please go and check out our Facebook page. It has our YouTube link, plus our podcast link, and hopefully very soon a Twitch link where you can check out everything live. So we're going to be hoping to have that very soon. Also, get out and check out Hot Pink Satan. Please, folks, give a new band a new try.
And don't be a punk on the internet. Don't just go there and look at it, like it, give Bod a comment, you know?
Yes.
Show him some love. He's working hard for y'all.
That's exactly right. Molly, Jeremy, thank you all so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
And when we're down where you're at, please come hang out with us at the show.
That'd be awesome.